Hi, my name is Vanja Bokun Popović, and I salute you from colorful and picturesque Belgrade, Serbia, in Eastern Europe. I am part of the instructors for courses in Pacifica extension line, and we're here today to discuss the amazing opportunity to get to learn about Black Moon Lilith. Not only learn, but explore, get to entertain different ideas, different perspectives, different embodiment practices, and to find some new archetypal solution for the very much a crisis that we're dealing with in the world today. What brings me here is actually having a privilege. From this point in my life, I can talk about it as a privilege, but it's been a painful road. I've had the privilege to be knocked out of my shoes since the age of 10, when the first war broke out in my country. I was a child refugee of the Bosnian War. Later on, I moved internationally. I lived in over 15 countries across the globe, adapting, getting used to the new cultures, learning new languages, but most importantly, gaining new identities. When life was painful, when it hurt very much and I couldn't find other people to relate to, I would look for my answers in myths, in storytelling, in poetry. I even wrote my own, starting at the age of 6 or 7. However, once we crossed the threshold of year 2020, I was stranded in Peru in March of 2020. And it took me, I would say, 2.5, 3 months to reunite with my family. And I got to see firsthand how the world, I'm talking about the planetary world, was changing, shifting, and rapidly metabolizing this massive change that was happening almost overnight. And it was a little bit scary, but I kind of felt at home in that crisis. All of these resources came online within me. At the same time, I was working on my PhD. I was assisting my clients, assisting my gathering groups around the themes of humanity, of mythopoetic thinking, on finding ways to deal with the wave of change that started in the year 2020. So since then, I've been traveling around the world, talking to people, and really learning actually that some of us who've lived through the world of complex trauma, who have found our refuge in centers, amazing centers such as Pacifica Graduate Institute, places and communities where we could really explore our mythopoetic side and find answers in the other realms to the questions that and problems that we're dealing with in this realm. Since then, I committed my work, and I committed pretty much all of my energies in finding new ways to find inspiration, to find hope, to share our humanity in ways that are of growth and expansion. So that is what brings me here, and this is an extended invitation to join us at Pacifica for this course and many other courses that are here. Drew me to Black Moon Lilith is really the nature of the crux of these times. It was really, on one end, the existential and at times a little bit seductive complexity of the era that we're living through. It feels as we are moving through this enormous wave of change. And when I say enormous, I'm thinking of the level of overwhelm, the level of complexity of all kinds of polycrises that are taking place in the world. And even worse, us really being informed by it through social media, through our phones, through laptops, and so forth. So this I've been kind of really focused on this wave, this tidal wave that is meeting the humanity. On a difficult day, that may look like technology, AI, all these technocrats and so forth are changing the way that we are relating to each other. But on a really good day, I can feel an immense potentiality for massive change, for a complete restructuring of our worlds, for complete restructuring of our archetypal inner worlds, which are here to birth new realities, the ones that are aligned with the soul, aligned with nature, aligned with our shared humanity. So what drew me to Black Moon Lilith is that when I'm really meeting this way on a bad day, I sometimes found it hard to find archetypal shapes and symbols that are strong enough and potent enough to hold the enormity of the change, the enormity of this evolution that we're going through right now. And historically, as we know, people usually strive to poetry, to myth, to community, to create new meaning. But this tidal wave is taking place so fast, and it seems like we cannot metabolize. We're sometimes looking at the collapse of the structures, collapse of the world as we knew it, yet we cannot clearly see what this new world is emerging, what it is that we're birthing. So this is where Black Moon Lilith comes into place. I was introduced to Black Moon Lilith by Dr. Lawrence Hillman. And what really got me going was this sentence: Black Moon Lilith is not a body in the sky. She's not an astrological concept. She's a mathematical point. Think about that, a mathematical point. And so when we introduce this really novel idea that we can interact with something outside of us that has this propensity to change the way we structure, the way we look into current concepts, it really gets something to wrap the mind about. So since I've encountered the, I would say, teachings about Black Moon Lilith, I really got myself to entertain new ideas, new models of thinking, new ways of feeling, and new ways of potentiating the futures. I can say that my understanding of refusal and autonomy has changed through the work with Lilith in such profound ways. As an Aries myself, I would see rebellion as a form of resistance that came from emotional and moral grounding. So I would, for example, see a certain injustice in the world or see how someone is behaving towards the other, and I would emotionally and rationally, with using my voice, step forward and say something about it. However, that doesn't always work well, and it doesn't always work out in the favor of yourself or others. And again, when 2020 hit and we started really feeling into these structural shifts and these structural containments, which kind of really hit on some of the most vulnerable parts of our sense of freedom, I began questioning and rethinking in the potential of the future world, in the potential of the world that is built around true human values, the values of nature, the values of community, the values of unity, the values of mythopoetic, again, potentials for something great. What would this new level of rebellion look like? And again, I got my answers to Black Moon Lilith, because Black Moon Lilith shows us that when we're dealing with structural issues, we don't have to fight them. We don't even have to emotionally get engaged with them. We can just step out and we can look at the structure, step outside of the structure, and renegotiate our place in the world. This goes on for our relationships. You know, we've been married for 15 years. I'm stepping out just to kind of observe and to see if I want to participate in this any longer, given all these other things going on. This goes on with the work structures, with family structures, with social structures. And Black Moon Lilith really teaches us to see a larger picture and to really communicate with our environment, to communicate with the intelligent space in a way that we understand that our focus does not always have to be towards the other in terms of a person or a phenomenon or anything of that nature. We can include larger structures and renegotiate our participation with them or our exclusion and going our way. This work can help immensely in the way that consultants and coaches and therapists engage with their clients, because it pulls us out from all the structures of knowledge, from the corpus of what we already know. So, for example, a coach or a therapist can look at the client and say, it seems like what the client is dealing with could be an effect of trauma, or it could be an effect of like the echoes from the past, or it could be a desire to move forward, but my client is being a little bit too radical about it. When we engage with this idea that our rebellion does not have to be purely reactive, and that our steps forward do not necessarily have to even engage in a way that we used to engage, having these long arguments and fights and wasting our energy, or using our advocacy skills where they're just collecting into a void and nothing really happens in the end. For many of us, changes that we're exposed to feel overwhelming. And the changes are happening faster than we can organize meaning around them. And so for coaches, therapists, any other helping profession, anybody really supporting people through this really peak of human transformation, we can actually allow ourselves to step outside of the structures of knowledge that we're aware of and get to see where it is that our clients are paving a new path, where their systems are dealing with something that they cannot comprehend on a rational level right now, but they're finding their way into the different future, systematically led by something greater than themselves.